What if I told you the engine under your hood is quietly dying right now, and you won't find out until it costs you thousands of dollars? Most turbo engine failures don't happen overnight. They build up slowly, silently, for months, sometimes years, before the moment your car finally gives up on you. Today, I'm breaking down the 7 warning signs your turbo is already in trouble, why most drivers miss every single one of them, and exactly what you can do right now to stop it before it's too late. Turbocharged engines are everywhere now. Small 4-cylinder engines pushing the power of a V6. Better fuel economy on paper. That's the trade-off automakers made over the last 15 years. But more power from a smaller engine means more stress on fewer parts. And that stress shows up first in the turbocharger itself. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. A turbo doesn't just break. It degrades. There's a whole sequence of small symptoms that show up long before total failure, and if you know what to look for, you can catch it early enough to fix it for a few $100s instead of replacing the whole engine for several thousand. If you hear a high-pitched whistle or whine when you press the gas, especially one that gets louder as RPMs climb, that's often the sound of a worn turbo bearing or a small leak in the intake system. A healthy turbo spins quietly. A struggling one starts to sing. This is one of the most serious signs. Blue-gray smoke usually means oil is leaking past the turbo seals and burning inside the engine. It's easy to ignore because it doesn't always happen every time you start the car. But once that seal starts leaking, it only gets worse, never better. This one is sneaky because drivers adapt to it without noticing. The car that used to merge onto the highway with confidence now feels sluggish. Most people blame the weather, the fuel, even their own driving. In reality, it's often boost pressure quietly dropping because of a failing turbo or a cracked hose somewhere in the system. If you're adding oil between scheduled changes and you didn't used to, pay attention. A turbo bearing that's wearing out lets oil seep into places it shouldn't be, which means your engine is burning oil it should be circulating. This is one of the clearest early indicators a turbo rebuild is in your near future. Modern engines constantly monitor boost levels. When the computer sees boost readings that don't match what it expects, it throws a code. Codes related to boost pressure, turbocharger underboost, or wastegate are direct red flags. Don't just clear the light and move on. That code exists for a reason. Carbon buildup on intake valves is extremely common in turbocharged direct injection engines because fuel never gets the chance to wash over the valves like it does in older engine designs. Over time, that buildup restricts airflow, and you'll feel it as a rough idle, hesitation, or a small stumble when you first take off from a stop. After aggressive driving, like a long highway run or towing, a faint burning smell when you shut the car off can mean oil is sitting and baking against an overheated turbo housing. This is one of the most preventable failures on this entire list, and we'll get to exactly how to prevent it in a minute. Here's the honest truth. None of these 7 signs show up as a giant red warning screaming your turbo is dying. They show up as small, easy to explain away annoyances. A little less power, a little extra noise, a little oil top-up. Drivers explain each one away individually, never connecting the dots until the day the car simply won't start, or worse, loses power on the highway. The manufacturers know turbo wear happens gradually. That's exactly why so many warranty claims get denied. By the time the failure is obvious, the early warning signs were ignored months earlier, and that gets written down as lack of maintenance, not a manufacturing defect. So let's talk solutions, because this is the part that actually matters. First, oil quality is non-negotiable. Use exactly the oil grade your manufacturer specifies and never stretch an oil change past its interval. A turbo bearing spinning at extreme speeds depends entirely on clean oil pressure. Old, degraded oil is the single biggest cause of premature turbo failure. Second, give your engine a cool down period. After hard driving, highway speeds, or towing, let the engine idle for a minute or two before shutting it off. This keeps oil flowing through the turbo while it cools instead of letting it bake and form deposits inside the bearing housing. Third, listen to your car. The moment you notice a new noise, a power dip, or smoke, get it checked. Catching a small turbo issue early can mean a $300 fix. Ignoring it can mean a $4,000 to $6,000 replacement. Fourth, worth. If you're buying a used turbocharged vehicle, ask for full service records specifically showing on-time oil changes. A turbo engine with a spotty maintenance history is a far bigger risk than the same engine with a clean one. Turbocharged engines aren't bad engineering. When they're maintained properly, many of them run reliably well past 150,000 miles. The problem isn't the technology, it's the gap between how these engines are actually meant to be cared for and how most people drive and maintain their cars day to day. A turbo punishes neglect faster than an older, naturally aspirated engine ever would. That's the trade-off you're making the moment you drive a turbocharged car off the lot. Knowing that trade-off and respecting it is the difference between an engine that lasts and one that doesn't. So here's my question for you. Has your turbo ever given you any of these 7 warning signs? Drop it in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.